Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready to go live. Ready to go live.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Let's get this show on the road. Making up the rules as we go along.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all
2
that you
hours.
see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
That's about the half of it. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Actually, there's some soft drink in there. I had some kind of fiber bar and two bagel sushis, or sushi bagels, right? This is the shortest time from bed to TV that I think I've done. And I brought back the old morning show mug. For those of you watching today's show, the stuff dreams are made of, and let's play pretend is the subtitle. Or that's the title, and the meme, as it were, is whatchamacallit. Somebody I know once referred to their, what people would have in those days referred to as an illegitimate son, as whatchamacallit. It's bizarre. This was sent to me by someone who isn't watching. Like most people. Nobody's. Actually, there's 0 concurrent viewers right now, so. A modest proposal. Let's change the Earth's orbit. Sorry for belching so soon, but yeah, it's carbonation. This was just written, recently, in the past week or 2 weeks, week or so. During a congressional hearing last week, Republican Representative Louis Gohmert of Texas, it kind of looks like Gohmert Pyle, asked a U.S. Forest Service official if her organization or the Bureau of Land Management could change the orbit of the moon or the earth to reverse the effects of human-caused climate change. That seems like a perfectly reasonable idea, doesn't it? Let's do it. There's no such thing as human-caused climate change. The sun makes the earth hot and cold. Goofball. I mean, these are the kind of things. This is the stuff you miss. I don't watch the news. Like I say, somebody sent this to me in the mail package. It was somebody who was sending me some stuff. Can this man put wokeism out of business? I don't even want to go down that thing. And if by chance you, my friend, or relative, or whomever, are watching, no, this key is not a key to the snowblower that requires the world's longest electrical cord and is so cumbersome. But it works like a mother. It's a good thing. But no, I have no idea what that is. You know what that key looks like? That key looks to me like a key to a safety, like a personal safety deposit box, or a lock box that you would have. You know, one of those metal things that has a handle on the top of it? If I recall, in the old days, I've seen my share of those things. So maybe you ought to check in your little office or on the floor or wherever you've got things hidden. See if you have a little lockbox somewhere. You might have some like gold or silver. There's gold in them there lockboxes, my friend. You might as well check it out. So, in case you're watching, you got the package. Or I got the package. Good morning, folks. Here we go. So let's put it into overdrive.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Yeah, it's not what you don't.
Making up the rules as we go along.
Yeah, as I said. And you know, by the way, good morning. It's kind of it's a cool movie. It's a movie. See, I said just as the shortest from bed to live TV it's been.
Weekend.
And it's the end of the weekend, so
Weekend weather.
what is the weekend weather in my neck of the woods, which extends in the mid-Atlantic regions into the Ohio Valley up the northern Appalachian Mountains? Looks today like it's going to be pretty much cloudy. It's currently 64 degrees outside of my studio, and it's looking like it's going to go up to 82 degrees today. Blah! You know, it's going to be hot and muggy, because tonight it only goes down to 70. Tomorrow it goes up to 86 degrees. Overnight only 70. And when they say overnight 70, the low, that means like now. So that means like if you wake up in the midnight or 2 a.m., it's still going to be like high 70s. It's going to be hot and muggy. And this isn't the weekend weather, but Tuesday 86, Wednesday 81, Thursday 84. Yeah, we're in for a pressure cooker.
Weekend weather.
Now, of course, that has nothing to do with human climate change. Show isn't about that. This show is make-believe, but bringing that up is a good thing. And by the way, just for this clarification of yesterday and layers of stress, you know how I said you could write it down? Like, here's my layers of stress, but I decided I would put them, I printed them out. It's okay to print them out. And yeah, you can have a copy on your little smartphone if that's your thing. But you can see, you know, there's my layers, some of my layers of stress. I got more than that. But yeah, you could print them out if you want to, if you're obsessed with that. And if you have the software and a printer. You know, a lot of people don't have printers anymore, you know. That caffeine is important. I'm drinking a combination of Faygo, Diet Faygo. That's right, sweetheart. And Pabst Blue Ribbon. No, there's a Diet DP in here. The cat's using the litter box in the background. CPU is about 6 to 7%, 30 frames per second. Coming at you in black and white, because in my world it's still the 50s and the 60s, maybe the early 70s for a family that didn't get a color TV yet. I remember the first time I saw a color TV. I was a child, and two neighborhood boys up the street had color TV, and we were able to watch Superman in color, and I thought that was the most unbelievable thing ever. That was the original with that, I think, Reeves guy, whatever his name is. He had some kind of tragic life or tragic death or something along those lines. I do not know. I forget. So, let's look at our title card here for a second. We'll get into this thing. My CPU's going up. I opened up the back window because it's cool outside. It's 64 degrees, and I figured that might be enough But man, that CPU's jumping up really hard. And here's the title card. The stuff that dreams are made of. And what you really can't see, I'm just going to enlarge this quickly for those looking at this on a smaller device. And you can see Bogart is holding the Maltese Falcon, otherwise referred to as the dingus in the movie. And there's Sidney Greenstreet, of course, and Peter Lorre. I mean, that movie's a classic. Now, I had said before that there were certain movies that, or most movies, I just didn't like to see over. Like, once you see it, you see it. You know, some people, they just keep watching something. It's like people, they talk about how the book ends and someone still wants to read the book. It's like, don't tell me the ending. I don't want to know. Don't even tell me the middle. I don't want to know. CPU, please stay low. I want to have some fun today. See what we got here. Of course, that's always a nice way to wake up to in the morning. Yeah, okay. And let's pretend. Okay, so let's pretend this is that's my girlfriend. Okay, she bought that bikini on Amazon.com, and she promised she's going to wear it today later on when we go out in the backyard when it's 80 degrees and we do a little bit of sunning. That's the LARP, as they call it, the live action role playing game. And apparently, I think I got everything pretty well covered. So for right now, let's get into the subject matter. We're just going to jump right into this thing because otherwise,
this is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
Well, because otherwise, yeah, it's a nightmare. For those interested too, by the way, I know different people, different strokes for different folks, as they say. But
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
right.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Let's get this show on the road.
Okay, I know. I had to do that. The YouTube channel's name is Rock Flux, if you discovered this by chance. And subscribe to it, okay? And then that way it'll show up, hopefully, in at least your recommended list, okay? Just subscribe to it. It doesn't cost you anything. Subscribe sounds that way, but it's not. All that means is that you're like, hey, when the new show comes out, give me a little not notification, just somehow include it when I turn on. I'll probably see it. It's kind of how it's supposed to work, something like that. I don't know if it will for you or not.
Okay.
Thanks. Do that. So I was thinking that this. I thought of this yesterday, and because in that last scene with Sidney Greenstreet, on the title card here, and not in that exact scene, but I think somewhere along the line, I forget who asked whom, but they said, "Well, what is this? What is it?" And Bogart said, "It's the stuff that dreams are made of," in his bogey voice. And I was just thinking about that. And then I got a picture still from the movie, and, and here we are. And the idea is this, let's pretend, let's play make-believe. I read that article about that idiot congressman, senator, whatever the hell he was, talking about as if humans, anyway, is the thing about people today, and a Gohmert Pyle, whatever, Senator Gohmert Pyle should know better, because I'm sure he's flown in an airplane way more times than the average moron, and certainly more than those people on the street. We want this, we want that, right? Look, man, it ain't your planet. And if you've ever flown in a frickin' airplane, you can't even see humans when you look out the window. Do you know what you see when you look out the window? You see like three things. Three things. And I've got hundreds of thousands of air miles. I've rotated, all right, around the planet, okay? Been over both big ponds. And here's the deal. You see vast green forested areas. You see all these circular, squared, plot type things that are basically farm, apportioned farmland, farm crops things if you travel towards the Midwest in the U.S. And then you see oceans, because we're covered with oceans. And someone said, yeah, but you missed the cities. I'll tell you, the higher you get up, the cities, they just look like, you're not even sure what the heck they are when you're up high enough, right? And most of the time, all you see is clouds because you're up, But the point of the matter is that you don't see humans. You don't see humans. It's not, we're just here. The natural, I say this all the time, but I get different viewers all the time, so it goes without saying. I have to repeat it. The natural life form of this planet is the flora, and the flora means the trees, the forests, which are vast. And don't tell me, they're cutting down the rainforest, the lungs of... it's funny they use that word, the lungs. First of all, it's false, and I've got footage from expeditions to the Amazon, by the way. But it's funny they would use the word the lungs of the planet. Because you know what humans are? Humans exhale CO2. And you know what trees do and the Amazon does? It breathes and thrives on a CO2. And you know what happens to humans when they go to the bathroom, to be polite, or when they die? They become fertilizer for trees and plants and flowers. Okay? We're just here. We are insignificant. But what about all of our devices and all that stuff we're putting up into the atmosphere? A simple answer to that. We're not. We're not. CO2 is 0.004% of our atmosphere. Do you know what most of our atmosphere is? It's nitrogen. It's a nitrogen atmosphere we live in. Did you know that? Oxygen is like way lower. Most of our atmosphere is nitrogen. .004% CO2. And it is the stuff that plants live on. But let's pretend, okay? Let's pretend that all of these, we want this, we want that, all that stuff. I'm sorry, I feel like I sound like a little bit miserable and cranky, and my voice is a little crackly. Because like I say, this is literally, it's 5:58 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We started this show almost 20 minutes ago. So, yeah, it's early, all right? In the former United States, in the former Western civilization, this corporatocracy that's part of an organized crime syndicate that rules the world. You like that? You like that? You like that? Howdy. Anyway.
Really funny. Really funny.
Yeah, that's what I say to Representative or whatever his name is. Look at this thing. What's the name of that guy? It was like this head lead to the song. This one guy was song. Hey, what's it? Raputa the Buta. What's the name of that chick with the long blonde hair? Rapunzel or something. Raputa the Buta. Long. Put down the long, whatever, the long layers of your hair. No, but that's such an obscure intro to a song. It's an intro to a song that's not a great Jay Giles song, but it was a Jay Giles beginning from a live album. Republican Representative Louis Gohmert Pyle of Texas. Hey, Reputa the Buta. What a moron. I'm surrounded by idiots. I can't tell you how many times, that I've had jobs, where I was the kingpin, as it were, where some people would refer to you, call you boss. Man, I used to hate that. I said, don't call me boss. Boss. Or I'd overhear them saying something on the phone, like they'd be talking to their wife. My boss wants us to stay late tonight, finish this thing. My boss. And in those times, and I've done that, I've been in positions like that. Let's see, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, I don't know, less than a half dozen times, I guess. A lot of times I had my own business, but I usually at that point just had a partner or some salesperson helping me out, working for me off, just off commission, type of deal, independent contractor. But, the boss thing. And anyway, somehow, some way, I would find myself saying, over the 40 some odd years that I did this stuff, I'm surrounded by idiots. And then the .gov site that we looked at a couple of weeks ago, it comes out where government-funded study, a waste of frickin' money. But there's no such thing as money anymore. They don't even print it anymore. They just put it in a ledger in the cloud. That's all they do. They just say, okay, we're going to overnight move, such and such amount to the other central banks or these other banks and charge them 0.01 or 0.001% interest. Or let's base our interest on the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, 0.004%, right? 4 cents to the dollar. Less than 4 cents. Actually, less than 4 cents, 0.004. Yeah, that's like what am I saying? That's less than, that's 4/10 of 1 cent. That's how minuscule the amount is. And the trees still manage to flourish. And these people want to dim the sun, okay, which by the way is key to life on this planet, to all the flowers, all the crops, all the trees, right? And most important, it boosts our immune system, right? We need the sun actually to live, like plants. The sun has something. I read this in a paper, a scientific paper, I think a peer-reviewed paper, that some 500 different things are activated when you're laying out in the sun. 500 different things. And ultimately your immune system is boosted. Think about that. And they want to dim the sun. Sounds like a Chinese food. Hey, honey. Hey, let's have some dim sun for lunch today. Can we do that? Get some dim sun? Sure, sweetheart. Can I take this bra off yet? Yeah, take the bra off, but don't put a shirt on. Anyway, let's play make-believe. I once wrote a line that goes something like this. I can't remember, but it's coming into my head. It was in a movie I wrote called Moguls. And one of the lines was a very depressing movie. It was one of those movies I put it in. I'm wearing a New York hat just by coincidence. I put it into workshop in New York City, And in fact, there's a longer story about that. Go back, read my books. tells you a story about that. Or I'll go back, I don't know, a month or two ago, I think I told a story about that. But anyway, in that screenplay, the one of the characters, depressing characters, says, they were talking about the blues, I think he said, because it was like kind of a blues film. And he said the blues is something about, blues is feeling bad and not having enough money to immerse yourself in drink. Right? The blues is feeling bad and not having enough money to immerse yourself in drink. Right? For all those people. I'm still one of those guys, and and nobody, and some people take offense to this stuff, but
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
And if you don't like that little sound bite,
go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
It kind of fits in with Bogey, but that's from, of course, Casablanca. Morocco. Dangerous place, by the way. Still is. But yeah, the blues. Yeah. Is not having enough money to immerse yourself in drink. But I was talking about alcoholism. I talked about this before. It's kind of a thing I want to get into, but let's pretend. It's like, look, some people are allergic to alcohol. They get a drink and it's like, hey, okay, you're allergic to alcohol. Give the guy a pill. They have pills for that. There's a disease. There's a name for the disease. I'm not going to look it up. You look it up. Otherwise, the rest of us are just drunks by choice. Okay? That's why there's so many bars. The founding fathers were brewers and distillers. Both Jefferson and I think Washington had distilleries. Okay? This country was founded by, drinkers. They were drinking when they were meeting in the Continental Congress. They left that out of those paintings. Though look closely, you might find a mug there somewhere. I haven't looked at one of those classic things yet. So let's pretend that these people get everything they want. They dim the sun, right? The communist Chinese don't have concentration camps, aren't trading organs from these Uyghurs in these concentration camps, aren't selling their hair for richer American women to have hair extensions and wigs, right? They aren't killing their own people, and they didn't release that thing as a bioweapon. Let's pretend that none of that happened, okay? Let's pretend that in India everybody's got lots of space. The streets aren't crowded. Food is plentiful. Okay? Let's pretend there's no such thing as drug cartels. Let's pretend that the Afghan war, that over in Afghanistan there isn't a pipeline, an oil pipeline. Let's pretend there isn't an oil pipeline, or that Afghanistan is the largest producer of poppies, basically heroin, in the world. Let's pretend that's not true. All right? Let's pretend that 50,000 people in America don't commit suicide every year. Okay? Let's pretend that. Let's pretend that 659,000, and these are numbers from a year or 2 years ago probably. So all these numbers are way higher now, way higher, because they go up every year. Let's pretend that the heart disease isn't the leading killer of Americans. And these are every year, not like something that just happened and came from some mythical place and magically appeared in 190 countries at a time when all flights were basically canceled, and some countries didn't even have airports or access. Some were either landlocked in areas where there was no way in, or water, or surrounded by water, and there were no planes or boats allowed to come in. All right. and that thing, right, that just happened to appear magically during lockdown in 190 some countries, while the whole world was locked down and there was no way even to get to these places. And in the deepest, darkest jungles of Africa, it suddenly appeared. Let's pretend. Let's pretend that cancer doesn't kill 600,000 people every friggin' year, and that and that nobody knows anybody with cancer that died from cancer. Fact of the matter is, I guarantee everyone knows someone who died from cancer. Cancer is becoming the plague of the 21st century. You don't hear that. You don't see those numbers on the top of the screen, right, on these network television. But let's pretend that cancer isn't this plague, this highly profitable plague. Let's pretend that there aren't 173,000 what they call accidents, and that I forget an ungodly amount. Do you know that there are over 1 million car crashes every year? Let's pretend that there aren't 1 million car crashes. All right. You know, in these accidents, a lot of those deaths are people who die in car crashes, but they die from other things too. But let's pretend that they don't. And let's pretend there aren't 1 million car crashes, and that they're going to create these self-driving cars, and those things aren't going to look like some old-fashioned bumper car systems, right? Or like that kiddie ride at the fair. Did you ever see that kiddie ride in the fair? They have a steering wheel on it, and all these kids are trying to steer this thing, but the steering wheel just goes around in a circle, because all it is a screw, with some washers and some play in it. And the kids, you could always tell, the kids with the highest and lowest IQ when you go to an amusement park. You don't have them anymore in many places. It's the kid who actually doesn't figure out, by the end of the ride, that spinning that wheel doesn't do anything, right? Hey, kid, and it's not your planet. That's the kid who grew up and he's out there with this thing. We want this sign. We want that. Hey, kid, it ain't even your planet. You're nothing. All right? This planet, it's a planet of trees and forests and oceans. And those trees and forests, they're connected by this network of fungi. And they all communicate with each other. And as far as we know, they're a higher life form than we are. They're just different. They just decided it didn't go the machine route. That's man's downfall, by the way, is that we focus too much on this biological android thing, however the heck we got here, all right? And we're plopped here, instead of dealing with our consciousness, okay? Let's pretend that 150,000 people don't die of stroke, 120 some don't die of Alzheimer's, diabetes doesn't kill 87,000, nephrotic syndrome, and nephrosis. I have no idea with that. I apologize if you have that disease, but 51,000 people are dying from it. Let's pretend that influenza, pneumonia doesn't kill 50,000 people a year, no matter what, flu shots or not. The CDC numbers, by the way, for those of you who have some kind of doubts. And that roughly 50,000 people don't commit suicide every year. Find life so unbearable in the U.S. of A. that they decide to off themselves. And that doesn't even mention what's going on with our soldiers who were sent over there. I'm sorry, I'm tangled in wires, because I've got the world's largest cord here in case I have to get up, get more ice cubes, turn the air conditioner on to keep the CPU down. So I had to create this thing. See if I can show it to you. See this? It's a headphone disconnect. All the time and effort I put into this show to have like one viewer. But let's pretend all of that. Let's pretend like I have because I have a shirt. When I get let's see if there's. Oh God. No, don't do it. Remember, the tooth. The tooth. Oh, my mouth's been somewhat stable. The airplane in here, it's almost like it's lessened for some reason. I have no idea why. I said that yesterday, and today it's followed suit. In fact, it's almost like, Star Trek. Do you remember that, if you ever really listen to Star Trek, most people don't. Hey, Scotty, you know that sound? I know you're dead and stuff, but if you're coming through the ether, you know that there's always was that sound in the background of the ship that was on the show. The Next Generation, it was more pronounced. There was always this sound. Well, that's the sound I have in my ear. Could you use some kind of like year 3000 or whatever the hell it is technology to get it out of my ear? Tony out. Where's your communicator? Henry Kissinger said, "Humans are useless eaters. We must get rid of them." My friend Bill Gates also believes the same thing. We must depopulate the planet down to 500 million people. We must kill off 7.5 billion people. All right. And Bill Gates also is the biggest owner of farmland in the U.S. That is scary. You are useless eaters. Yeah, ridiculous.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.
Yeah. Humans, we're just, we are food. That's all we are. Plant food. Think about that. How does it feel to be plant food? They're actually, they were experimenting with these things like that Gomert Pyle guy wants to thinks he can move the Earth, move the Earth atmosphere, the planet of the Earth. And Gates wants to dim the sun. Yeah, I don't know. I think I got too confused earlier because I'm half awake. Well, here's the thing. They're already doing that. See, the reason these things, we know about this stuff is because these were from press releases, through like MIT, Harvard, Yale, or whatever. These academics that are and papers that have been published where they were actually where Gates was funding these efforts, and they're testing this. They've been testing putting particulate matter in the atmosphere to reflect the sun away. It's a so-called cool the planet. They've been doing that. It's called geoengineering. It's this guy Dale something or other. I used to follow him. He's a weekly radio report. Look, geoengineering. I'm pretty sure his name's Dale. Do a search on him and listen to his weekly show. He knows all the stuff, man. He knows all the stuff. And this is all non-political. Like I say, I'm not political anymore. That Gomer guy's a Republican. I don't care. He could be Democrat, Republican, Independent, or, Green Party. I don't care. Libertarian, Doesn't matter. If you're a moron and you believe some moronic thing and you don't understand the existence, let's get back to pretend land, right? I have this T-shirt. I don't have enough images. I'm tempted to take these tooth things out but I just don't want to. You know, it's like superstitious, right? That song by what's his name? Stevie Wonder, Superstition. It's almost like I'm afraid to take certain things away because, let's see, we'll call this daily image. You have no idea. Make source visible. I don't understand what that really means, but I do know I want to unload image when not showing it. You can't see what I'm doing. My CPU's rising, though, while I'm doing this. Now I'm trying to remember what I was looking for. What was I talking about? What the hell was I talking about? My mind just went blank. Boy, do I hate that. Let me look through previous show titles and see if something comes up. It's going to remind me what I'm looking about. Casablanca, Dalek, Dr. Strangelove, no. Girl with guitar, Girl No Device, Lettuce Row. What was I talking about? Let's Pretend. Yeah. Jesus, that bother me. I'm losing my mind, you know. I've lost my mind. I'm wasting a lot of time. I know that. I realize that. Well, let me just put this up for the time being. Daily image. Here's a picture of the Apple TV video system from back in the 90s. I was telling about this. You used to be able to open up your Macs and your PCs and put cards in them. And if you bought this kit, you know, in it was a card that you opened up your Mac. You put the card in the back. You had a remote control, and you could watch. And it had like a thing to add cable or like RCA, you know, video input. I used to have one on the G5, the thing I use for this kind of stuff.
Okay.
And believe me, this thing was
funky.
But that wasn't what I was looking for. I'm talking about make-believe. I'm losing my mind. One of the side effects of the pills I'm taking is Alzheimer's. And it runs in my family. My father had it. That was a real smart move on my part. You got a genetic disposition for something and you're taking a pill that the side effect could be Alzheimer's. Man, but you know, it's a trade-off with drugs. I don't know. I just got that refilled. Talked about that a week ago. Thank God the doctor didn't give me an argument because I wanted more pills. I wanted to take a higher dose. He said, well, how about instead of giving you 60, I give you 90. That way you could like take an extra half. Excuse me for belching, otherwise I get a stomach ache. Stomach. I know I'm a weird character today. I'm kind of out of character. I'm kind of not me. Kind of weird. It happens sometimes, you know. It's like, who am I? You know. It's like that. It's like when you got two girls over your house in the bedroom, and it's all dark, and they're twins, right? And they're kind of just running around the room, and you're in bed, and you're like, you know, one of them jumps into bed, and you go, which one are you? That was a scene from, you remember that movie? Which one are you? Yeah, it really doesn't matter. So let's pretend. Let's pretend that all these things, or let's pretend that these people that are talking about all these things are true, or they get what they want. I know what I was looking for. And you know, I built it up so much that I've overbuilt this up because it's not really that outrageous a thing. So let me go to shirts, product picks, and see if I have one of this particular yeah, I do. Well, it's a hoodie, but we'll bring that up. You know, my answer to people has always been, and you get this in a t-shirt, you get this in anything you want, really. And the answer is to these people who like are out there protesting with a protest sign. You know, this is my protest sign example. And the answer is, then what? Question mark. I took like a half of an aspirin this morning. My stomach's getting a little bit upset, and I don't have any Rolaids. But I think this is what I was looking for. Then what? You know. Of course, it kind of goes with everything you know is wrong. But, you know, it's like you get everything you want, then what? All right? And so my shirts, you know, they require a little bit of thinking. You know, everything you know is wrong is right in your face. But the shirt that's like, you don't know what you don't know, you know, requires a little bit of brain power. So, you know, get one. You know, let somebody look at your shirt. You can get one of those like cloth shopping bags with that on it too. You don't know what you don't know. And let one of these people like look at it going like, you don't know what you don't know. What's he, you know, what does that mean? I don't get that. What is that? Or then what? Question mark. What is that? What is that about? Or like back here, game over. If you could see that on top of the guy with, you know, still wearing the thing. Well, let's pretend it's the 1950s and 60s. That's what this set is, you know. Take a look back here. You know, what do you got? A dial phone, transistor radio, AM radio, tube radio. I know you really can't make this out, but that's a set of 3D glasses. Right? These are tubes. Right? Let's pretend. You know, or let's pretend that it's 1985 and the Mac, the first desktop publishing computer, just came out. So let's pretend these people get, you know, build back better, and the Great Reset turns the world. You know, they get everything they want, right? There's no more fossil fuels. Right? They've eliminated it. I was watching some guy from Canada explaining, you know, a lot of these countries that, you know, have signed on to this idea of like eliminating what they call emissions completely, 100% by like 2030 or 2035. I mean, we're talking, it's 2021. We're halfway through 2021. You know, it's a carbon-based society. You know, civilization. You know, countries like India, these developing countries, South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, and even China itself, all of where the major populations are. There's nearly 8 billion people on the planet. Those people aren't going to say, oh, they're still developing. They're still like, they got populations, billions of people. Well, the only way to keep them warm or cool, or to have their factories run, harvest their food, build their roads with heavy equipment that requires carbon-based fuels, right, is to have carbon-based fuels. And so you think, it's an interesting scenario. So, in other words, it's basically they're saying we want to kill 2/3 of the population. So it goes back to Bill Gates, who makes these speeches all the time, that the biggest problem in the world is overpopulation. And it's not. This planet could handle 50 billion people. The problem with these young people and these academics is that the only place they've ever flown, all right, is on a vacation or to visit some relative somewhere. You know? They've never really put in the miles, the air miles, or even the ground miles, people like me have, and millions of other people. Like I said, I tell this story, not all the time, but every now and then. You may or may not have heard it before if you've watched this webcast, international, worldwide webcast. But I've driven around with people and without people. And times I've driven around with people, I could remember I've always commented to them. I said, you're driving these roads. Once you get off interstates, but even if you're on interstates, it's the same thing. But especially when you get off interstates, or if you decide you're going to take, a different route or route or whatever. Get your kicks on Route 66. It's trees everywhere. That's all there is, are trees. And they're all breathing in CO2 and exhaling, by the way, oxygen, which we need. And those plants that we need to, eat, to survive, they need CO2. They need sunlight. All right? It's the middle of July, right? Yesterday we had, we get these days where it's 80 degrees and stuff and it's humid, but it's summertime. Middle of summer, you're going to get that. But despite that, throughout June and into July, every third or fourth day, we've had these days where it was in the low 70s in the overnight. The other night, it went down to 46. I got up the one morning and it was 46 degrees. 52 degrees. And like I say, I'm in the mid-Atlantic states. There is no the Great North Passage, right? The North Pole's still frozen over. The magnetic North Pole's now in Siberia, which is still a bunch of ice. Right. Antarctica hasn't defrosted. There's a mile of ice on Antarctica. Oh, there's pieces have broken over, but they discovered that the heat in Antarctica was thermal. Was basically coming from, geothermal, caused by underground volcanic, basically lava in effect. The Earth's weakened magnetic field and the anomalies of the sun right now in this 12,000-year cycle are causing an uptick in volcanic activity and earthquakes. California's starting to shake. They might be in for it. Might be finally time. The big one might finally be coming. We've heard that before, but, one doesn't know. One doesn't know. Though I did do some reading that Yellowstone thing isn't going to probably happen. That, there's so much release, and there has been so much release of pressure from Yellowstone, with the geysers and all this stuff that it's pretty unlikely that one's going to pop. What we're more likely to see is what happened in Hawaii. A lot more active or volcano. It's like Pompeii, there's stuff going on there. Iceland, there's been eruptions there. Areas that either have been active or that are frequently, cyclically active. You're going to see a lot more of those things kind of either waking up or spewing more than they normally did. That's like one of the results of this. But let's pretend that that's not real. And that they dim sung young, right? I guess I just can't get that out of my mind. Because I had this yesterday. I had this has nothing to do with China because it's Japanese, but I had a sushi salad a friend bought for me. And it was this bowl of all the key ingredients. There's rice on the bottom. Just everything was in there, but it wasn't like sushi, like some kind of sushi thing. It was just this bowl. And I just dumped the bowl into like a salad bowl and mixed it all up. I was doing a lot of work outside, so I normally don't use soy sauce because it's just really liquid salt. But I was doing a lot of outdoor work yesterday, trying to deal with some of these layers of stress and crazy neighbors trespassing. And so I was dealing with some of this growth on this fence. It's like the schoolyard bully type of thing. It's like, not that my neighbor is any threat or bully. Basically, and I don't want to be insulting. She's a mentally ill, mentally disturbed woman, criminally insane kind of. So in that respect, who knows? And she's got a bunch of guns and stuff. But she's basically the size of a munchkin, and she's bent over. She could barely walk. And during the time that I lived here, I built her all these rails and did all these things to make her life easier for her. But suddenly, once I put up some privacy fencing, because I wanted privacy to suntan and just listen to classical music and relax. At this point in my life, I've had, illnesses. That kind of set her off or something like that. For 5 years, I basically remodeled her entire place. I used to mow her lawn for free every week for 5 years. I never asked for a penny. I just did it. Fix things. All that stuff. And some people like that. And so they trespassed into my yard, ripped up, plants and things I had growing, and sprinkled a piece of toilet paper over one of my apple trees. Imagine that. I've talked about that before. This is some 70-some-year-old woman and with her 70-year-old other, co-conspirator. And I didn't call the cops or anything like that. I just added security measures. I have alarm systems, motion detectors, an extra camera, So if they do it again, I'll have camera footage. Alarms will go off. I'll leave the alarm on till the cops actually get here. Show them the footage. Basically something like that, if need be. But the alarm and the floodlight motion detectors and stuff like that should be enough to start freaking them out. But at the same time, I've kind of done some yard work along this fence line of theirs to just not let it be too overwhelming to freak them out. Because the woman it's not them, it's just one woman, really. But she's so nosy that I said this in the other day. So if you have a pain in your left arm, does that mean you're going to have a heart attack? Yeah. So it's what's he doing in there? We got a right to know. What's he up to? We got a right to know. Imagine people being that nosy, right? And that not be able to let it go and to have to live like that. In other words, you got to live another person's life. It's the same with the protesters, you know. You know, they're out there saying, we want every child to be this, that, the other. Or we want everyone to do this. It's like a guy like me is going like, I don't care what you do. Right? Well, that's kind of a libertarian philosophy. But it's not, you know, you don't have to be libertarian or have any kind of political leanings whatsoever. It's the concept of like the live and let live. You know, I don't encounter a lot of people, you know, I was going to say on a daily basis. I said, I don't encounter a lot of people on a yearly basis. Yesterday, I had no encounters with anyone. The day before, I don't think I had any encounters with anyone at all. Like right now, because I had to like max myself out to buy these security things, you know, for peace of mind and to get rid of some of these layers of stress, because stress kills, and heart disease is the #1 killer in the U.S. And the doctors tell you stress is worse than eating fatty foods. I told you about the 80-some-year-old guy in the hospital. Him and his wife, after he got released, he goes, let's go to McDonald's. I'm hungry. Let's go to McDonald's and get something to eat on the way home. You know, jolly old Saint Nick, jolly old fat man. How many people you know? You know, I knew a guy, I don't know if he was he was a relative or a cousin or whatever. He went to the same church or something like that. That guy was so fat, his stomach was a hand rest for him. And that guy lived to be like 80 years old or something like that. I mean, the guy would eat 2 pies himself for dessert. But he was a funny guy. He was a nice guy. He was a happy-go-lucky guy. You know? Pretty sure he probably drank beer too, because I think he hung out at some of the social clubs, Knights of Columbus or something, when they used to have social clubs. But let's pretend we're back in that era, looking at this black and white TV. My head's over top of the Mac, so the Mac doesn't exist, and everything else you see here is out of the 60s. That on-air lights, hell, that's from the 1920s or 30s. That's deco. Let's pretend that this broadcast is coming to you. I'm on a black and white TV. And it's 1963, or maybe it's 1971. All right? And you just don't have, you know, you don't have enough money. Or you're down in your downstairs and you got the old black and white TV downstairs and the color one's upstairs. And this guy's coming to you, talking to you. And life is a simpler time. You know. Your biggest fear is, you know, getting a number that you're going to have to go over. Rotate over to Southeast Asia and walk around in the jungle. You know, the Jolly Green Giants carrying a gun. Right? Walk while it rains and all that nonsense. Watching your friends get their legs and arms blown off or a head exploding, like out of a horror movie. Scanner Nightly or whatever. Yeah. Then coming back and trying to deal with that. Then going to sleep and trying to deal with that. That frickin' nightmare. But anyway, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. And you know, that movie, The Maltese Falcon, that, you know, if you look at it in a different light, this endless pursuit and all of this tragic events that ensued in search of this dingus, the Maltese Falcon, right? And the pursuit proved that the one they found was just a fraudulent one. And they decided, and a couple of the members of the team decided they were going to even offered Bogey after trying to kill him earlier. Do you want to go on a mission with us to, there's rumors it's over and such and such. They were talking about the Knights Templar, right? Also in that movie. Like that it went back to that. I know all about the Knights Templar. It's an authentic. Did you ever see a gold coin? Let's see if I have it protected in plastic. You don't really have to, because nothing happens to gold. Gold is one of those magical things. It's like an Illuminati thing. And in black and white, even in black and white, it shines. That's the Knights Templar cross, by the way. It's not necessary. Okay? Just shiny it is. Even in black and white. It's gold. Yeah. What's an ounce of gold worth? I was telling people that, people don't want to deal. Everybody uses the Illuminati and the Masons as if they're like the evil thing, New World Order and all that stuff. And I said, you don't understand. It's the Old World Order. Their problem. It's been the Knights Templar. It's been the Illuminati. It's been the Rosicrucians. It's been all of the Masons that have been trying to fight the Old World Order for millennia. And it's the World Economic Forum, the Davos set, or as the one guy said, Davos set. They're that's the Old World Order. That's the king system. That's like I was talking about in my 4th of July show when I was saying fireworks had nothing to do with July 4th. 4th of July is Independence from England Day, independent from taxation without representation and that kind of, and edicts. And all we have today are edicts and taxation without representation. Fireworks were about the War of 1812 when the Brits decided to come back and burn down Washington and tried to take back the country from the colonists. How'd that get lost in history, right? 4th of July celebrations, right? But let's pretend that people aren't, and what I was trying, I guess I didn't finish earlier. Let's pretend that people aren't functionally illiterate. 2/3 of Americans aren't functionally illiterate. Let's pretend that this great reset and this, is going to bring on utopia, despite that there have been countless books. Read Walden too. All right? Read. Utopia doesn't work. There is no utopia. All right? In fact, one of the failings of the Enlightenment movement, which our founders were a part of, was the idea that they were trying to create, one of the concept was heaven on earth. All right? That's a belch. That's what somebody my age does, that if you hold in something like that, you get real bad stomach pains. Like I say, I'm out of Rolaids. Tums don't work as good as Rolaids. That's my personal opinion. So my last time I was a boss, I used to have this on my desk. I'd drink sodas. I'm sorry. Let me drop everything and work on your problem. But now I dedicate my life in the service of others, right? I don't make any money on this. Nobody buys my stuff. I say that every day. You know.
Grab another flashback from yesteryear.
From yesteryear. Another flashback from yesteryear. I know this show's a little bit slow. We're an hour into it. But it's me, you know. You know, it's the way it goes. I mean,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
That's just the way it goes. You know.
I've resigned. I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered.
Black and white is pretty interesting, though, you gotta admit. So, yeah, you know, I think a lot of people are pretending. And all of these things that you see on TV, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. But the fact of the matter is, after this endless pursuit happens, it's like my T-shirt that I was trying to push here, that what I've decided to call the Daily Image. Then what? Because you don't get it. For example, Biden is the president of the United States. We elected a man with dementia, okay? All right? You have you have Kamala Harris. We had the first black president, you know, who served for 8 years, all right, 12 years ago. And now you get the first alleged black woman vice president. You've got all this new stuff being taught in schools, and this critical race theory and revisionist stuff where people don't even know what World War II was about because they're functionally illiterate. And the question is, then what? Well, you got all that stuff. But it's not enough. It's never enough. So we want a dim sum young, right? Whatever. Now think about that. Now let's dim the sun and let's get rid of fossil fuels. So 2/3 of the world will basically die of starvation in abject poverty. Because that's what it means. Because it's a carbon-based planet. A carbon-based civilization. Without it, you can't run anything. You know, if there's a fire in a skyscraper and there's no carbon-based fuels, that hook and ladder is not going to get up to the 16th floor. You know, somebody calls 911 with a heart attack. How's the ambulance going to get there without a carbon-based fuel? Electricity? No, those things weigh too many tons. Right? Oh, we're going to fix a bridge. We need cranes, excavators, dump trucks, bulldozers, all kinds of specialized equipment. Runs on carbon-based fuels. Well, you can't fix that bridge. That bridge is going to be closed. Oh, we want to fix these highways. We want to fix potholes. How do you think they heat up the asphalt, which is pretty much close to what in its raw form, so-called fossil fuels, but crude oil is. That's what it is. It's it's like liquid asphalt, without the little rocks and stuff they put in it when they make roads. It's like concrete. It's like in fact, I just used a bunch of it yesterday, and I'll probably do some today. It's like using mortar, without, you get a bag of concrete, and it's basically, like, depending on the mix, it's like sand, rocks, and mortar type, more or less. Right. Cement. They never knew what the secret formula of Roman concrete was until, the 20th century or something like that. 2,000 years. Of course, we didn't have toilets in the early part of the 20th century, but the Romans had them 2,000 years ago. The secret ingredient was they were using lava, like chunks of lava, in their concrete mix. They'd figured that out. Something about the fact that it had been, the way, the strength of it, melted, whatever. I don't know exactly, but these geniuses back then, great philosophers, Greek philosophers, there's all these people that think just because somebody lived a couple thousand years ago, they were a moron, or that they didn't have a computer, that they were a moron. It's like Elon Musk. I mean, yeah, the guy's an engineer. Okay. So he could scribble some things on a blackboard and stuff like that. But he's got this idea that the smartphone, all right, makes us a cyborg. And his thing is, he's saying that the fact that you have access to this information isn't enough. This information needs to be implanted inside your head so that you can compete with AI. That's him. That's paraphrasing him. That's his thing. That's this fear that these people have. Well, let's pretend he does that too. Then what? Then you got a bunch of people walking around with Wikipedia in their head. But Wikipedia is like revisionist history, right? It's partisan. Let's pretend that the U.S. becomes this authoritarian, totalitarian state that they're trying to create. The latest one is they want to go door to door and give everybody the old thing in the arm. So much for the Fourth Amendment. I mean, they've already decided that there's no First Amendment. Constitution's gone. Forget about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and all that stuff. So that's why I really do these morning broadcasts. It's all I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to say, look, here's black and white TV. Here's what it's like in the 60s. And it's not that bad. I'm sorry I'm not so chipper this morning. I'm just tired. I didn't sleep well last night just because, sometimes you don't. I had the window open, and it was fairly cool, cool enough that it should have been a good night's sleep. I woke up, I told my voice assistant to play Tchaikovsky, right? Or was it Chopin? I forget. Anyway, it was one of those piano concerto guys. I was thinking of asking it to play Krieg lyric pieces, which are some of my favorites. I lost all that music I used to have. But it's a good thing about having one of those things that I can, get it on demand. Though they have their set of faults too. And I envy those people who have these great album collections and stuff. I used to have great albums. I lost a lot in this building fiasco that I've talked about a few times. Stuff I had stored there. Oh, God. But it's just material things. Anyway. My book codex is here. Get a hard copy of it. I think it's $12.95 on Amazon. Buy it and give me a review, or buy 1,000 copies of it, man. Make it a bestseller and just hand them out. Go to bookstores or go to anywhere. Just hand them out. Give them to thrift shops. Just, go to the hub of a university and just stack them out and put free. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, I guess this show, this concept, when I come up with a concept for a show, such as the stuff that dreams are made of. And like I said in my subtitle or title that's underneath the main, Let's Play Make Believe. The thing is, you can't really play make-believe. It's a child's game. And that's what these people out in the streets are really trying to do. They're playing make-believe. They're pretending. They're playing. It's the Peter Pan culture. The stuff that dreams are made of is not the dingus in the Maltese Falcon, right? It's about living life, finding your place in this crazy world, and just don't talk about things you don't know about. What does a representative Gomert Pyle know about the climate? He's not a climate scientist. What does Bill Gates know about anything to do with medicine or climate? All right? He doesn't have I don't think he doesn't have a college degree, unless he was probably given an honorary one because of Microsoft or something, which his dad basically gave him. He's just a spoiled brat kid. Got the company for $50,000 from IBM because there was a conflict with IBM that could potential monopoly situation. They couldn't have software and hardware, so they sold off. The story's a little more complicated to that, but that's the gist of it. The guy's a nobody. He's nothing. He's not a smart guy. He's not really a geek. He's not. It's the same as like Steve Jobs. I met Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a smart guy, but he was no engineer. He was just a guy. He was just a brilliant thinker. And he saw things, and he was able to like put things together and say, hey, why don't we try that, or let's do it this way? Because what he did is he saw things from a productivity and an end user standpoint. Whereas these people out there, we want this, we want that, they're not end users of anything. They're just basically people raised by the nanny state who are still living like college kids. They're either living with their parents or they're living with roommates. I mean, yeah, I had roommates when I was like 19 years old down at the seashore. After that, the only roommates I ever had were women. I was either married to or sleeping with. Right? Who the hell is a roommate when you're 30 years old? Who lives with like, the show Friends, right? Well, that's this thing. That's these people. They're like, it's like I used to laugh about that. This goes back to the 90s though. I've been criticizing this stuff forever. I call this a webcast, not a podcast, because I've been webcasting before there were iPods or podcasting. I invented it. As far as I know, right? I know I was doing it 25 years ago. And at that time, I kind of knew every other person that was doing it. You could pretty much count them on like two hands who were doing it, because there were only so many servers and so many places that had enough bandwidth to basically get a show out to people. And I used to get like 20,000 listeners, and I was written up in a couple of magazines, print magazines and online magazines at the time. But I used to always criticize this and go, so which person on Friends are you? Ever notice that? Because the people do that with TV. They just want to be a character because they have no character. Like when they look in the mirror, they don't see themselves. They're afraid of the mirror. See, they're afraid to be alone. There's old people like that too. They just have to do things all the time. They can't be alone. They can't stand being with themselves. The reason I built a wall in my backyard is because I wanted privacy. Or privacy, as they say over in the UK. I don't mind being with myself. When this video is over, I'll feed the birds, but I will watch this video. I enjoy myself. All right? I'm one of my favorite people. That's just the way it goes. What am I going to do? Right? Like I said before, it's like the pros and cons of living alone. The pros outweigh the cons. It's like, yeah, sometimes, it's like, yeah, you wouldn't mind some human companionship, but you just want it for a short period of time. You don't want to have that person there, 24/7. When you reach a certain age and you've been through my chair, I have a very cheap chair that's probably the cause of half of my pains in my back. The Winnie the Pooh pillow isn't doing it. It's helping though. But there's some companionship that's like, I don't know. But it's like, oh man. Yeah. Been there, done that. Dozens of times. I don't care anymore about that stuff. It's like, then what? Then what? So the good years, back in the black and white TV era. They were the best of times and the worst of times, however you want to say it. Dickens. People just don't get it though. And so we're living in a fantasy world. This idea of people have this cult of personality. They get the save America or build back better or this great reset that's going to change things. All this stuff. The unholy triangle, right? The very tip of this thing here is the Davos set Great Reset, right? And then down here you've got Save America, and then you have Build Back Better. It's just some unholy triangle, right? It's not. None of it is any good. Yeah, I'm dying. So what? So's everybody else. They're killing us. They're killing us with the food, the water, the stuff. geoengineering in the sky. Who knows what they're gonna do? What the geoengineering, bioweapons? You know, what do they call that? The gain of function. You know, the last 2 years. This has this just been a dry run for the real thing they're gonna like lay on us this fall? You know, creating super bugs that destroy the U.S. Western civilization completely. Take out everybody in India. Right. Billion people. Great swaths of people in South America, Africa, Southeast Asia. These people, they're self-appointed the ruling elite. They think they're the rulers of the world, right? Like they own the world. It's like the king system in the UK, right? The queen mother, they call her. Like she owns England. She owns, you know, they call it the crown land, like in Canada. Right. You hear these, you know, I watch these YouTubers, you know, they're building cabins or something. Well, I'm surrounded by crown land. The crown. You know. Ridiculous, man. So it's so out of control and so absurd. And that's this whole idea I try to say about this layers of stress thing, which isn't really a part of today's thing. But, you know, down the bottom, there's that budget, finance, health issues, you know. And, you know, that's the thing you got to do. You got to get rid of the layers of stress. And you can't allow this insane theater. That's a Jim Morrison line from a song that they put together after he died, you know, like based on one of his tape of him reading a poem, and then the band got together and they put this music to it, you know, and there's a line in there, this insane theater. And that's really when I look at what's going on. And like I say, I don't have TV anymore. But when I turn on YouTube, which is on my TV as an app through a smart device, or through this internet, right? And so for a second, when I go to YouTube to start this show, you know, I'm confronted with all these various little title cards on YouTube, these memes, whatever you want to call them. Bunch of posers by YouTube millionaires is what it is. Anyway, you know, people doing this pose, like, you know, and with some weird thing, like, it's, you know, we've lost everything, or this is a total disaster, right? And of course the video is nothing about that. It's clickbait, but they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month or something. And if someone like me says a word, then you're banned. They just like take your video and take your channel down. Wrong speak. So what happens, because we're close to that point. Yeah, I was talking about that Brett Weinstein guy who got taken off, you know, for talking about a potential treatment for a thing you're not supposed to talk about. And, you know, so he no longer exists and he lost his source of revenue. And so some people are giving him, you know, He's been making the rounds on some shows here and there. But, you know, he's going to have to just, like, you know, get some kind of job but, like, they don't hire people now who are, you know, who dare to go against, you know, the line, the company line, the corporatocracy, you know, line, the media line, which is what is the same as the corporatocracy. So if you deviate from the ideology of the corporate media, the corporatocracy, you know, and remember, students, you know, they've been doing this now for decades. So you have an indoctrinated group of people who are now like into their 40s. And the, you know, people who are older than that, and when you get into people in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, those lucky enough to make it that far, you know, they're of no consequence. Elections don't matter anymore. So, you know, your vote doesn't count. Because no matter who you vote for, the corporatocracy decides what gets put through or not. So, you know, it's an insane theater. We're just experiencing this out of control bunch of people who are functionally illiterate, have been raised by the nanny state. Everything they know is wrong because they've been taught revisionist history, so they know nothing about life. They're very inexperienced. Their only travels are to go to rallies or protests, right? You know, they're not like, they weren't journeymen like me and people like me. They didn't work. They didn't travel, right? They didn't go to war, right? Let's see, in foreign lands. They didn't do anything. You know, they've been mollycoddled by the nanny state and their parents who got divorced, and because of their guilt, each parent, you know, they could go to one or the other and get, you know, hey mom, I need to get a new smartphone. Hey dad, you know, I need $800 because I want to go to the protest thing. You know, of course, their dad's a left-wing academic professor somewhere or some goofball. Sure, son. Just take care. Don't get arrested. But if you do, remember, call Aunt Mabel. She's an attorney. She'll get you out. Insane theater. And people are like glued to the TV set, watching this stuff, glued to social media, arguing back and forth, sending memes, laughing at each other, ridiculing each other, doing all this kind of crazy stuff. It's ridiculous. Oh. The stuff that dreams are made of. And that's what they're doing. And they're following the leader, the cult of personality, right? And they've all got this fantasy about some kind of utopian life, right? That they're going to usher in. But in the meantime, they're literally messing with Mother Nature, dimming the sun, trying to get rid of carbon-based fuels in a carbon-based society that literally runs on it. You know, this one guy was right to say, I was listening to, he was saying, you know, in his mind, he goes, I think basically nuclear is going to come back, nuclear power is going to come back in a big way, right? So it wasn't enough that we had Fukushima and that salmon, which was one of the most healthiest foods to eat, they say most Pacific salmon is pretty much has a radiation content in it that's dangerous, and that you shouldn't eat seafood, like tuna, salmon, and things like that, more than once a month or something like that now, because of the toxins in it and everything like that. Everything causes cancer now, including this. I mean, I could never do it enough. Ugh, my neck is still tense. Still got those layers of stress. So let's take the let's see if you can get that. It's very hard to read. It's on the bottom. Electromagnetic radiation tester. Okay? It's an actual scientific device. It's not a toy. Just turn it on. It's on. The battery on this thing's probably dying out. But let's bring it up. You see the light? Can you hear the beep as I pointed at the computer? Then I pointed over at the futon. I have a futon over there as a wall. It stops. Point it towards the computer. All right. Now, why is that red light flashing? What does this beeping red light flashing and these numbers on this thing mean? Well, it means, and it says it on the bottom, harmful. So this is an electromagnetic radiation tester, okay? And it says that the computer that I'm sitting in front of is emitting harmful radiation. There's been study in Britain that people, their cell phones to the thing are causing brain tumors. That people put their smartphones in their pocket and it's causing, probably causing cancer, down there. But it's also already has reduced the sperm. They've done studies, peer-reviewed studies, reduced the sperm count. So in other words, people are, because of the smartphone, people are unable to father children. And then you have this soy boy movement and all these weird foods that people are eating, that they're pushing, right? That are basically like kind of neutering men in a sense, right? It's weird. It's like everybody wants gluten-free something, right? It's like, it's interesting how they invented that one. There's something more, something behind that, gluten-free. Veganism. Vegetarians. Right? It's an insane theater. It's like a dream. Right? So the way I look at it is, if you look at this room, like I say, sans the Mac that my head's covering now, there's everything there pretty much, it's just from 50 years ago or more. By the way, everything back there works. That's the other thing. A couple apartments ago, I've lived in so many apartments, but a couple of apartments ago, about, I don't know, 5, because I move around a lot. I'm the type of guy, once I do a job, and once you get a job, I've always had a thing where, and it's happened when I was younger, it was more pronounced. But it was the thing is that once you succeeded at a thing, then it's like my work here is done, And without naming specific jobs, there were a couple times where, I had put in certain, changes and, procedures that it ended up that all I was doing was sitting in my office with my feet up on the desk. Because the place was just running like a fine oiled machine. Yeah. And a couple of times when I was in a supervisory or managerial type of position, the boss. And I usually ended up giving my, 2-week notice or something in those situations. Because it was like, I'm not going to sit here at this desk. Go to lunch. Right? Well, that's what most bureaucrats do. They don't really do anything. They pass a few papers around or electronic memos now, and then they go to lunch. Then they have all this holiday time. Then they go on the 2-week vacation and whatever. I don't know. And we're not doing that. And weekends they're out protesting and whatever they're doing. I don't know what they're, watching TV, news. Got their news app. They're texting people at work. They're texting and driving, talking all the time on their cell phone. About what? It's an insane theater. It's basically, like I said, it's, to me, to someone like me, it's like...
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
It's a freaking nightmare, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, it's insane. It's like, this one's kind of like, audio quality's different, but it's like...
You're now in a different continuum than the world you're used to.
It's a different continuum. Alternative universe, whatever. And meanwhile, the truth of what's really going on, and the fact of the matter, the Earth's magnetic field is weakening. The sun's probably going to nova or a major CME, and probably a grid down type of situation may occur within sometime in the next 10 years or so. The odds go up more and more and more once you get up to 20 years. And nobody's paying attention to that. And I've been trying to push this, underneath this radio is the Jackery thing, which you could find on my Great Solar Stuff website, which, by the way, is powering that light and other things. And people just aren't prepared, I've had shows where I've explained to people, yesterday I came into the house. I'm trying to think when it happened. I don't know if it was after I was doing work out in the yard and I came in. I was upstairs, so it must have been after that. I probably took a shower, and I was sitting watching something on YouTube, right? Just chilling for a while before I had my sushi salad. And suddenly the TV, there was this boom, right? And then it went off, and then a couple of things went back on, and it went off again. And... I almost smelled... I would thought it was like something electrical in my house, so I opened my basement door, smell to see if something happened electrically in the house. I was like, it was weird. This is the year 2021, and this kind of shit happens all the time. And I get these mails from one of these community groups. It's a thing, and there was I noticed someone posted a thing on it, and I just I haven't quit the thing. It's not like I go to the site or anything, but you get these you get emails when people there's some kind of thread or a post comes in, and someone says, did anyone else hear a big humming noise or anything weird like that? Is this like but apparently their power didn't go out because this was some woman just talking about some humming thing. So some transistor, transformer or something like that, went down or something weird like that. But this happens all the frickin' time, man. And it just destroys. I was sweating when I turned on this computer because I usually leave the computer on for a certain amount of time. And yesterday when I tried shutting off my computer, it like wouldn't shut off. It like restarted. Then I ran this like disk, first aid thing and doing that stuff and checking this and all kinds of errors and stuff. Right? So it's, could well, so I don't know. Hopefully it didn't cause any damage, but it may well have. So, we're basically standing on the precipice of, dystopia. And people are living in a fantasy land and thinking they're going to usher in utopia because they've got some guy who doesn't even know he's alive half the time in charge. Or they've got this cult of personality and think that this other guy who was in before and the Save America campaign, if they can't give money to that, he's going to come to the rescue like Superman. But every dime you give to any of these people, these campaigns, just goes to the media machine for commercials and makes those announcers wealthier. Because as you well know, look at me right now. Look at me. You know you are not going to change your mind based on a commercial. So why are you donating to a campaign? Why? Because you're caught in a cult of personality. Because you've allowed politics to become pop culture in this insane theater. You're listening to people who don't know anything about the climate science, anything about like meteorology, anthropology, archaeology, right? History, geography, earth sciences. They have no degrees in these things. They know nothing about them. And they're telling you these things that they're just parroting. And then there's someone out there would say, oh no, the UN IPCC report. Yeah, that was the one Al Gore quoted 15 years ago. And everything he said proved to be a lie. And then the UN IPCC emails got released and they found out that they were basically giving out fraudulent data. They were fixing the data to meet their lies. They should have all been, they should have been arrested. Those are crimes against humanity, by the way. See, when you're talking about things on a global scale, like this guy wants to dim the sun, that's crimes against humanity. All right? Because you're talking about affecting nearly 8 billion people on the planet. When you're talking about eliminating carbon-based fuels, right, that's a crime against humanity. Right? Because you're talking about affecting nearly 8 billion people on the planet. Because this is a carbon-based civilization. And CO2 is the most important gas that we have to keep this planet rolling. All right? I mean, you just don't, and these people, they just make these memes and they're part of this thing and protest. Look, when it's sunny, and it's called axial tilt, when the Earth is tilting towards, there's our great solar stuff. So when the Earth is tilting towards the sun, that's summertime, okay, in the northern hemisphere. And it's hotter. And when it tilts the other way, it's cooler. All right? It's winter. And then at nighttime, when the sun, is around, is on the other side of the planet, right? We're spun around. It's cooler and dark. The sun is the source of life. The sun is the source of energy. The sun is the source of health and your immune system. That's a fact, Jack. All right? Get it through your head. All right?
Funky.
It's the truth. It's in your face. There is no other thing there. And what about these people? You hear people talking about the magnetic field? Do you know that the magnetic South Pole is no longer in Antarctica? It has left the continent right now. I spent years dealing with some of the great explorers of Antarctica. I have so much information on that. But currently, right now, the magnetic South Pole isn't at the South Pole. It's not even on the continent of Antarctica. There's a South Atlantic anomaly where virtually there's almost no magnetic field at all right now. The Earth's magnetic field is getting weaker and weaker by the year. It's so weak right now that cosmic rays and too many solar rays are getting in, that we could see massive mutations and death, disaster, cancer, all sorts of things. The sun's magnetic field is basically weakening too, and that kind of is an added protection of the solar system. And it's not like something you see in school where we're some stationary solar system and the sun's in the middle and the planets go around and that's that, and then there's a galaxy or something. No, the sun's like a comet. All right? It's traveling at 450,000 miles per hour. And it's dragging along these planets, and we're hurling through space at speeds you can't even frickin' imagine. Yeah, that's, they don't mention that on the nightly news because the average person has no concept of that. They don't teach people these things in school. People go to school for 18, 21 years, right? From, the time the mother abandons them after maternity leave because she wants to I got to keep my big house and my big SUV and my lifestyle. It's like, don't have the kid if you can't take care of the kid. That's a sexist remark. No, it isn't. Women have babies. All right? And unless hubby says, okay, I'll stay and raise the child, which is fine. All right? But hubby's not doing that. Hubby's not leaving his job. So they send it to the nanny state. So for 25 years or 21 years, some 21 odd years, people are in this revisionist history indoctrination condition to become, functionally illiterate. They have no trades. They don't know what to do. They just wasted a quarter of their life if they're so lucky to live to the ripe old age of 80. In most cases, probably half or a third of their life. And then they get a job and they do this thing that they don't like that just gives them layers of stress, and they retire, or before they retire they end up having a heart attack. Every 10 years, 10 million plus people die. Actually, more than that. Like almost tens of millions. Tens of millions of people in the U.S. die unnecessarily by things like heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and all these other things that are all curable or preventable. Tens of millions. You don't see that posted on the network, the top of the network screens. It's an insane theater. Politics is pop culture. The ruling elite are just messing with us. They don't know what to do with 8 billion people. And in the U.S., they don't know what to do with 330 million people. That's why they've got gates around everything in the Capitol and all that stuff. They're scared shitless. Because there's a couple of thousand people trying to rule over 300 some million people. And and the 300 million people are starting to say, hey man, hey, wait till the fall. You get 50 million people unemployed, right? And meanwhile, you have these delusional academics, these scientists working on AI and all this stuff, and this is going to make life great, and they'll just give people a guaranteed income, and people will pursue the arts. Have you seen half the frickin' morons on the street? Do you think they're artists? They have creative minds. They're soulless people. They don't even have consciousness. They're unconscious. They have a bioelectric brain, and they're walking around like android robotic zombies, following the leader, right? They're like lemmings into the sea. The Pied Piper, all right, is telling them what to do. People just don't get it. Well, anyway, I'm over my time. I mean, I'm not really over my time. I could talk forever. This show is just kind of dragging on. Thanks for watching. Visit TonyCaravanLive.com. Get your gear, and
Good morning.
Have a good morning. Take care. Subscribe to this channel. It'll show up in your, hopefully show up in your recommendation.